Dorothy Sayers once wrote, "Do you ever find that young people, when they have left school, not only forget most of what they have learned, but also betray that they have never really known how to tackle a new subject for themselves in the first place?" In today's modern sphere of education, there is a current debate raging about the methods of learning in today's world. Is it working? Are students learning? What do we need to change? With the unveiling of different curriculums and intentions in the past couple years, teachers and educators are considering new modes and methods of education to find the one that best fits each and every student. Today, I want to talk to you about two methods of education, the banking method and the problem-posing method. And I want to tell you about why I think the problem-posing method yields the most benefit per student. So first off, what are these methods? Well, they were both coined by Paulo Freire in his book, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He describes the banking method as our current state of education, the act of depositing, where the action allowed to each student is receiving, filing, and storing deposits, information like their robots. The main intention isn't about integration of subjects, instilling a love for learning, or learning in a way that changes your life. It just becomes a school that's a lecture to sit through and a block to check. This negates the idea that knowledge is the process of inquiry, alive only through communication. Surely this creates an apathetic view of education and learning per student. The mechanical depositing of information cannot create a love and a desire for learning. Well, to be able to understand the negative connotations of this idea, we must first go back to the question, why is how we learn so important? Well, according to Freire, education is the liberating action and reflection of men and women upon their world in order to transform it. Furthermore, an education results in the acts of cognition, not the transfers of information. Clearly, today's education system is based on the idea of the transfers of information, not acts of cognition. In this way, this has major consequences for the students who are going through this kind of education. For example, if we are teaching students what to think instead of how to think, then they will never understand the connotations of the decisions that they make. They will not know what it means to problem solve, and they won't realize that their actions, both in the past and the present, can have a major impact on the rest of the world. Well, how can we change this problem? Well, Paulo Freire introduced the antithesis to the banking method, called the problem-posing method. Better recognized today as classical education, this method focuses less on the content itself and more on how to use that content to shape the student's life altogether. Similarly, problem-posing education embodies the idea of communication in action. Knowledge is not just a one-way street, but a critical investigation about reality and how ideas in science, in literature, and in philosophy work together to create the world we live in today. So what does this look like practically? Well, classical education is a round-table discussion where everyone is a joint contributor. When refining ideas, Solomon's proverb in Proverbs 27:17 comes to mind, which says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." Classical, problem-posing education uses information as a means to an end, and not the end itself. Ultimately, any information that is taught should be used to shape the character of a student to be capable, diligent, and excellent in anything that they do, not just in their academics. Dorothy Sayers, in her article, The Lost Tools of Learning, provides a theory of education via the trivium, or 3 stages and education methods to help equip students with tools to succeed in life, using the stages of grammar, logic, and rhetoric to instill ideas of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, respectively. These are the 3 ways she sees to help a student be most prepared for the rest of their lives and not just have education as something they sit through. I don't think it's a mistake that these 3 things, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, are also found in Proverbs 2:6, which says, "For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding." In the end, education is more than just an immediate gratification to a transcript requirement. In today's world, do we treat it like that? Sometimes. But that doesn't mean it should stay that way. Education shouldn't just be something that we do in grades 1 through 12, but something we participate in all of our lives. Education and its main purpose of knowledge should be used to impact a student's life so that they grow and change as an individual. A method which pumps and dumps them full of education just to meet a test requirement is not true learning. When we teach students what to think instead of how to think, we miss the point entirely. Dorothy Sayers also wrote, modern education concentrates on teaching subjects, leaving the ideas of arguing and expressing one's opinion to come up as the scholar goes along. Whereas classical education first focuses on forging and learning how to handle the tools of learning on any subject that it comes along, used until that tool becomes second nature. Any effort of education will be in vain if a student does not know how to learn, understand, and critique ideas for himself. Education should be the process of liberation and not domination, and only through the classical method will we instill a sense of urgency in our students to do these things. Ideas have consequences, so how are we teaching them?